Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Live Healthy Now. We're talking about a really interesting topic today, one that I haven't dove into yet on the podcast. So I'm really excited to have Sarah Mills here with me to talk about plant-based eating for health. Sarah is an ex-marketing consultant turned vegan sales and leadership coach, and she runs a sustainable wellness and mindset business called The Art of Winning. So, welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
Hi, Nicola. Lovely to be here. Thank you for
Yeah,
inviting me.
you're very welcome. It's a topic that I really am excited to talk about because I do personally enjoy plant eating and I'm excited to dive into plant food and what it means. So, before we do that, I want to find out from you, Sarah, what's your most impactful healthy habit in your toolkit?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's awareness. It's literally being aware that my body is directly affected by the food I consume, and over time, good or bad habits of a lifetime will definitely impact my physical health and my mental health because it's all connected. And I think that also goes with the thoughts that I think, the company I keep, and like I say, the mind, body, energy. It's all connected. We are holistic in that terms, and I think if one thing is out of sync, we will feel the impact over time, whether that's stress, illness, overwhelm, negativity. So for me, it's definitely about the awareness creates the most impactful habit, and then putting those into some sort of practice.
Oh, I love that because that was something I didn't have knowledge about until I came into this sector and started the business. I'd struggled a lot with my mental and physical health and never put the two together. And actually, many years ago, when I was struggling with physical health problems, a doctor said to me that it was mental health that was the issue, actually, that the physical problems I had weren't caused from physical, root causes. They were being caused through my mental health. And that was something that I kind of refused to believe because I didn't understand it. Whereas now, to your point, I totally get that mind and body 100% connected. My main one-to-one coaching programs named exactly that, mind body, because we need to understand, as you say, everything is affecting each other. Our thoughts are a big part of that. So I love how you work on that for yourself to improve your health.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to get started then with plant-based eating, the word plants, I certainly know from my partner when we haven't been together that long, when I first started talking to him about it, he was kind of the opinion, plants, who wants to eat plants? So tell us a little bit about what plant eating really is.
Well, I think maybe it's the word plant then,
Mm.
because we all eat loads of veggies. Well, maybe your partner doesn't, but if you think about it, to me, yes, in its basic form, plant-based eating is not eating anything that is not from a plant. So that means you're not eating stuff from an animal source. And that's the bottom line of it. But when we think about plants in a bigger scale of things, it's every vegetable, it's every fruit, it's everything that's grown or formulated, right? That just doesn't come from an animal. So I think when we look at the whole array of that and the rainbow of colours that creates, to me, that is super exciting. I can't think of
Mm.
anything, more fantastic than the choice. We have far more choice. We have far more choice and variety of fruit and vegetable than we and plants, if that's what we say, it's
Mm.
plant-based from origins of a plant, than we do from probably, I don't know, the 5, 6 or 7 non-plant-based, animal-based foods that we eat. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it is that word plant because certainly for me as well, when I first heard that term, I thought, oh, well, that doesn't give a lot of choice. You think of your typical veggies and fruit. But over time, I learned that it's, your nuts, your seeds, your grains, your lentils, the beans, the herbs. So actually, the term plant, I think, makes people turn their nose up to it and think, oh God, who wants to be chomping on green leaves? Because that's the picture that it gives, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, which you and I had spoke when we initially met, was about veganism versus plant-based, because that's evolved, hasn't it? You know, maybe only a few years ago, plant-based wasn't really a term that was in common use, was it?
No, and I'm only speaking from my own personal opinion, and so I don't know if this is a fact or not. But it may be that it is maybe easier for people to understand the word plant-based, whether, you know, like you said, people thinking, oh, what, I'm going to eat some, you know, some cabbage and some green leaves. But it maybe is easier to understand. And also, maybe it's easier for people to understand also from a marketing perspective, from companies' perspectives. I mean, I know that loads of brands now do say, you know, they've got a big V for vegan on them to let people know that they are vegan. So I think there can be amongst a cohort of people that are plant-based who would say, no, I'm a vegan, definitely a vegan, right? Whereas I'm very easygoing with the term. I think it's whatever encourages people to think more about what is it I'm eating? What impact is that having? You know, I'm all about, you know, kindness to animals. That's what made me start going down the plant-based vegan route. But I think that you could be plant-based and not be vegan. Okay, so what that means is you could be plant-based and only eat plant-based food, but you might still sit on leather sofas, wear leather shoes. Do you see what I mean? And
Yeah.
so there are some distinct differences. But for me, I just feel like some people say, oh yeah, I'm vegan. I often use that term. I mean, I don't have any plant-based, you know, things, non-plant-based things in my house. But then on the other hand, you don't always know, you know, has the glue that's fixed my, I don't know, my sofa together, what was that used from an animal byproduct? So I think the vegan side of it potentially is a much more overarching entire lifestyle. Does that make sense, Nicola?
Yeah,
Rather than just the food I put in my mouth, yeah?
yeah. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of that either. And for me, one thing I would add as I look upon it and what I've learned about it is that when it comes to health, veganism and plant-based are actually quite different, or can be, depending on the person, in that if you are eating from plants, you pretty much manage your diet from a whole food point of view, as in you're using foods in their natural source to create meals, to create, you know, the things that you eat. If you're vegan, or some, as I say, this isn't for everyone, but there's a lot of products we see processed foods, you know, made as vegan food, which means that if you are someone who chooses those foods, you're not necessarily eating healthily. And so I think there's also this perception that, oh, when you're vegan, you're really healthy. But actually, you know, I do a lot of my shopping in Aldi, for example. There are so many vegan products in there that I certainly would never buy, even though I love eating, you know, non-animal products. Do you know what I mean? I think that the market's grown from a commercial point of view, hasn't it? And there's a risk that people jump on the bandwagon and think, "Oh, let's be healthy, let's be vegan. That's a good way to eat healthier and maybe, you know, have a better diet and feel stronger." But the food they eat isn't necessarily the most nutritious food.
Oh, I agree 100%. You know, that was actually one of the key things that I wanted to share was being vegan does not mean being healthy. And I think that's a real, you know, I could eat a chip butty for the rest of my life, right? Which is basically vegan food, right? And yeah, okay, it's also plant-based food, isn't it? Because it's from potato and it's from wheat, let's say, but it is certainly not healthy. And I think that is also another thing that as individuals, like you've said, we really need to be aware of, because the big companies will market as anything they can, right, to make money. And we just have to be really aware of that. Whatever product it is, whether it's a product, a service, the food we eat, it doesn't matter. We are being marketed that so those companies can make money, right, at the end of the day. And it does not always incorporate what is best for us as individuals and our health, right? 100%. And I do say that to people, you know, yeah, I would give anybody a opportunity to switch to plant-based stroke vegan, and I would say to them, do you know what, if you love the taste of a 100% beef burger, or and you want to, you've got some awareness now that actually I don't know if I want to eat it from an animal, but you love the taste of it, which is the reason that most people stay eating the food they eat, because it's basically all down to our senses and our taste, right? And if somebody said, I said to somebody, do you know what? You can get amazing vegan plant-based burgers now. Go and try one. And somebody said, oh my gosh, I couldn't taste the difference. Now, in that first instance, I would be really happy for them. Over time, I would probably say you probably don't want to be eating those all the time, because they are packed full of colorings, additives, just like all processed food is, right? But mentally, if somebody has thought, do you know what? Actually, and I think the meat side of things from the burger perspective are some of the things that have definitely become the best similar flavour. Yeah. There are some amazing, I mean, I don't like the taste of meat. I never have. So I'm not looking for meat alternatives. But I understand that most people that want to switch, it's the fact that they love the taste of chicken, of beef. That's the reason they can't do it for most people, because we're driven by our senses, aren't we? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I don't think I've ever thought about it in that way with the senses, why we eat. For me, I don't know if it is about flavour, as I said, because I haven't considered that. I've often thought about it as just being a habit. It's because I use meat and I know how to cook with meat. And for me, a big challenge that I've had as I've tried to incorporate more plants into my diet over the past few years has been protein. And I know, because I'm qualified in nutrition and a personal trainer, and I've spoken to lots of people about this, they struggle with protein when it comes to plant-based. Now, I know that isn't an issue, that there's so much variety when it comes to protein. But for me, that has been a stumbling block. And I think that's something, when other people are focusing on their health, has held them back, because they say, oh God, but what do I do? How do I make that swap? Because chicken it's gone up in price over the last probably 18 months, but it's quite a cheap food. Beef as well, it's quite cheap and can be used to bulk cook and make meals that you can then have with your family, or bulk cook lunches and things like that. So for me, I think it's been a bit of a habitual thing and lack of knowledge that held me back from initially going more plant-based anyway. Is that something that you hear as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of the first things to think. I mean, people have become much more educated, even in the last 3 or 4 years. The UK has been for a number of years really leading a hell of a lot of the plant-based and vegan movement, which is exciting. But I think it's, for most people, I don't hear the term so much anymore, but definitely, 5 years ago, the first thing people say is, where'd you get your protein? Because they associate with meat equals protein. Yeah. Therefore, that's the protein part of my plate, right? And the rest is made up with some carbs and a bit of veg, let's say, right? But that also is something that we just need to change our perception on a little bit, because, there are amazing proteins, right, to be found in loads of plants, right? As I say, in nuts and seeds and, and pulses, and I mean, there's so much protein in other things: pea, rice, whole grain rice, pea protein, high in protein, edamame. I mean, if you look at it like for like, and also I think what we have to remember and also educate ourselves on is that, okay, fine, you might be eating something potentially that says it's got, I don't know, let's say, I don't even know what meat has got in it, but let's say 20 grams of protein. But is that actually bioavailable to your body to actually absorb? And that's the other thing we have to really think about. Plants are really easy for our body to absorb. They're much more bioavailable. Meat takes far more of our energy to break down and absorb. And, so that's why, lots of it sits around in our gut and doesn't get absorbed. So I think so, well, you will know that, as a nutritionist, but it's all about absorption as well.
Yeah, so
So,
I'd love
yeah,
to chat a bit about that, Sarah, with, the benefits of plants then, because there's so many things that I think, majority of people aren't aware of because we aren't educated on this. We're not taught about it generally. The gut health is something that's becoming of more interest to more people as we hear more about it in the media. And plants have a huge role to play in the health of our gut and our microbiome, don't they? So, as you say, it's much more than just, well, is it a protein? Is it a carb? Is it a fat? And how many calories has it got? We need to be considerate of so much more. And as you started with right at the beginning, you really think about what goes into your body and what that does to every part of your mental and physical health, not just whether it's going to give you X amount of calories to stay in your limit that day.
yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that, basic foods that maybe lots of people don't look at, lentils, quinoa, chickpea, tofu. I mean, they're high protein, right? And you can be really creative with how you use them, You can make
Yeah.
lovely burgers out of them, you can stir fry them, you can put them in soups, you can do all sorts of things. Pretty much like you can with the meat protein that lots of people are eating, right? Whether you're
Yeah.
roasting it or putting it into, I don't know, all the different things that people use meat-based for, you can do the same with the protein that comes from plants and, legumes and vegetables and stuff,
Yeah.
and other items like that, So I think it's just about re-education, getting creative and looking at it in a different way. And just thinking, is this going to serve me or not serve me over the long term from a health perspective? I know lots of people don't care about, a lot of people aren't awakened to that and aren't worried about that. But yeah, I think a lot of it is, empty carbs and potentially empty protein in some things, if they're over processed and full of, toxic chemicals and antibiotics. I mean, don't get me started on all the antibiotics that go into, animal food. And also I understand that just because you're eating like amazing plants, they also may be sprayed in chemicals, and most of them are. So it's oh yeah, it's a big deal to think about, isn't it?
It is. And I think so, to simplify it for people, what are the main benefits then from eating a more diverse range of plants in the way that we've explained them as vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts, seeds? What are
Yeah,
people getting from having more of those in the
yeah.
diet?
Well, you're getting, if you can try and, as you said right at the start, you see plant-based as being something that's more whole food. The marketeers and the manufacturers will call a lot of stuff plant-based, and it is plant-based, but it's still, highly processed. But you're basically getting all of the things you need. Everything, from the huge diversity of plants, vegetables, fruits, nuts, pulses, you're getting all the fatty acid, all the amino acids, all the minerals, all the vitamins, everything that can be found that you would list out. And you know what I find really interesting about this? Most people don't even think about that anyway, do they?
No.
Most people aren't thinking, right, so how many grams of fat should I have a day? Healthy fat. How many grams of protein should I have? How many minerals? Have I got my B12? Have I got my Most people aren't thinking that. Have I got my magnesium? Have I got my calcium? Have I got my potassium? Have I got my selenium? Do you know what I mean? Like, on the whole,
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got
come
time
on,
to, we haven't got
No,
time to
exactly.
think about that. Yeah.
Which is in a way is good, because what it means is, right, most of us aren't thinking about that, right? We don't know the exact amount. Our food will say this delivers what percentage of your daily intake of blah, blah, blah. Most people aren't thinking that, really. So I think what's good about that is that you don't need to know all of that. All you need to know is that, you can swap out your meat. You could try, and I always say to people, just, try doing it one day a week. Try cutting out dairy for one day a week. Try cutting out meat for one day a week. That is a major progress for your life going forward. And in the end, if you must think, oh, I must have protein in every meal, which you don't have to have, obviously, try using something else instead.
Yeah.
Try making a lovely veggie chili, right, with beans and pulses and finely chopped mushrooms. You finely chop mushrooms into tiny, it turns into what's like mince almost, because a mushroom is quite a meaty veg anyway. Mushrooms are amazing.
So mushrooms, unfortunately, are one of my no's, but
Right.
I wonder if I should try them where you've just said like chopping them really, really fine and
Yeah.
using them as, a hidden veggie in something,
Yeah.
maybe even blending them, because I've heard a lot about mushrooms recently, about how diverse they are, with what they can give you in those nutrients and vitamins and minerals and stuff. So yeah, mushrooms have just always been a no.
Yay.
To your point, I started. I'm gonna say 6 years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, to do the hashtag Meat Free Monday movement.
Okay.
So I've always liked veggies, but I wouldn't say that I was really, considering how many I ate and the diversity. And then I'd made some adjustments to my diet and so on. I got more into veggies and different plant-based meals, some meals without any, meat or fish in them. And then I started doing the Meat-Free Monday at home. And as you say, starting really small with just that 1 day a week where you're intentional about, I'm not going to have any animal products that day. And in honesty, I would still have dairy, like I would still have Greek yogurt potentially, or maybe halloumi cheese, but I wouldn't have, any meat or fish products in food. And then my journey has just evolved from there. And as I've got more interested in it and got to a place where I thought, okay, I want to eat less meat and I want to eat more veggies, how can I just make sure that like a lot of the days of the week, I'm starting from a place of how many veggies can I get into a meal, or, other things like the nuts and seeds and so on. And so it's just grown from there, really, so that I now eat a lot less meat. And I've
That's
found it so
great.
much easier. And maybe we can give some practical tips in a sec, but one I will throw out, which I'm sure you're maybe a fan of as well, is Deliciously Ella. Ella Mills, she runs the Deliciously Ella brand here in the UK, which has grown from strength to strength over the past 10 years or so. And I was always interested in Ella's story because my daughter's got celiac disease, so she eats gluten-free food, and Ella isn't gluten-free 100% herself, but she generally advocates gluten-free, and she had recipe books out, and so I used to get those and tried some of her recipes. And then as our brand grew, she started to make products, that have grown a lot actually just this year. So she's now got a new range of food called Plants. But she's trying to, again, educate people on plant-based eating without it being vegan processed type food. So all of the food that she sells, like, cereals, the bars, everything is completely, natural. There's no emulsifiers, modifiers,
Brilliant.
additives, the colorings and so on. So, she's gained a lot of momentum with that, which I love. But I'm a huge fan of her, so much so that when I was in London a couple of years ago, I booked in advance her restaurant. The family weren't impressed because there was no meat, obviously. But I was like, I need to go. And I can honestly say, Sarah, this meal that I had, I love MasterChef anyway, and it was like something from MasterChef the way it was set out. But the flavours were unreal. I had a cauliflower steak for my main meal, and just everything that was part of that meal was just, amazing. And so, do you follow Ella, Deliciously Ella?
Do you know what? I'll be really honest. I don't. This is
Oh,
so interesting. I know who she is. I
yeah,
know that, the sort of movement that she leads, but I've never really. I think it's because I've always naturally been a plant-based person. So as a child, I never liked the taste of meat. And
right.
it was really difficult growing up, in the sort of 70s, not eating meat. I was a real cast out, but I've naturally never liked the flavour of meat. So I've always, and although I've only been the process from going from actually vegetarian to actual plant-based took me years. I mean, I stopped eating meat in the mid-80s, right? But I didn't
Right.
associate fish with being animals for some reason. So I carried on eating fish until about 10 years ago. And then the dairy was the last thing I cut out because I was like, oh, I can't live without my cheese. And then I looked into the dairy industry. And so it's only been about 7 or 8 years that I've eaten plant-based. But because I've always been cooking vegetables, right, and other things, I've never really followed any other vegan chefs or plant-based chefs. And I know there are wonderful ones on Instagram. I mean, lots of young people I know who have switched to a plant-based diet in the last, let's say, 2 or 3 years. You know, they will literally go onto Instagram and find some fantastic chefs and recipes, and some of them have literally learned to cook from being on those platforms and seeing how you can make, you know, fabulous stir fries and one pan dishes and bakes and all sorts of things. So yeah, I know how influential and brilliant that Ella is, but I personally have never thought, oh yeah, you know, I need one person to, or
Yeah.
I haven't done that, and I've never been to a restaurant, so that, you know, that sounds fantastic as well. But I
Yeah,
do like the whole clean eating side of it. You know, I think that's the important thing. Like we said earlier, you know, being vegan, being plant-based does not mean being healthy. But I think if you can think about the ways that you can cut out the impacts, I mean, I think it all comes down to what is one's reason for doing it. And it's either normally regarding animal agriculture and animal farming, your actual health, because you found out that maybe too much meat is not good for your health, or planet and climate change. Those are the three things I think I find with most people. They're doing it for one reason or the other, you know?
yeah, I totally get that. And I think that's where I've come at it from, you know, a place of just health. It's like I want
Yeah.
to be healthier, I want to eat less meat, probably, you know, with some interest towards the planet and the climate. I can honestly say that it's something, again, in the past I didn't really have a lot of time to understand and get interested in. However, doing this, obviously, I have, and having become a big fan of Tim Spector as well, and recently read his book, there were some very alarming stats in there that, yeah, have given me food for thought, literally, about, you know, the whole industry, as you say, not just around farming, but much wider than that, and so on. But yeah, just back to what you mentioned about people, you know, becoming plant-based, or even just like myself, having more plant food in their diet and using influencers or chefs, you know, people with Instagram accounts and so on to be inspired by, is a really great way to get started if you are struggling. You know, have a look and be inspired, because certainly for me, I've picked up so many ideas for recipes. You know, I do definitely advocate having a look at Ella. I think what she puts together is like nothing I've seen anywhere before, and it's very simple and can be very low cost as well, which is very important at the moment for a lot of people. But I've made some amazing salad dressings. I think that's one of the things I've got from her. Tahini was an ingredient
Oh
I've
yeah.
never used before. The last couple of years, you know, I have it on order from Amazon regularly. Um, the tahini, the hemp seeds, the flaxseed, you know, lots of things that I hadn't used regularly, but things like that in salad dressings with your olive oil and your fresh lemon or lime juice and
Mm.
so on. You know, there's just so much. I made this amazing one on Monday with coriander and tahini and the olive oil and lemon and lime juice. I can't remember, there was something else, and both me and my partner were like, oh my God, this is so delicious. So yeah, you can be inspired by what's available out there, you know, or even get yourself a real book, you know, and have that on the shelf in the kitchen so it's at hand and can help you out.
Yeah, definitely,
Mhm.
definitely. When it comes to, I mean, I suppose I could probably eat raw as well for the rest of my life. I mean,
Really? Oh,
I could probably definitely. I mean, I think I could probably make, you know, every time I make a salad, it's got something different in it, like you say, different ingredients, even like tiny little broken up walnuts and flax seeds and just things just thrown in with the leaves and and the basic things that people think, as most people think, oh, salad, oh, it's cucumber and it's tomato and it's lettuce, and they think, yeah, but what are all the other things you can put in? You can put up little sliced bits of beets. And, I love doing kind of partly warm salads as well. So, things like rocket are delicious. I love rocket. It's a peppery taste. Not everybody loves it, but I love rocket and I love the other leaves. But actually, if you just like, I don't know, fry off or do some really lovely garlic mushrooms and throw them on top of the salad with garlic and like say tahini and olive oil, it tastes absolutely delicious. So warm salads are really nice as well, because I think a lot of people think, well, salad's just a side dish. What's the main meal? Do you know? And I'm like, oh my God.
So come on, because obviously
you should see my
stay away
salad.
stay away from mushrooms for my benefit, please. But
Yeah.
come on, what would be something that you could add or base your salad around, maybe, that somebody might not think about, that would be a really good food, to give it that substance and make it a main meal?
I think I have to say nuts are filling, right? You can make
Yeah.
lovely salads with, small pieces of walnuts, right? Chopped up almonds. You can, I'll sometimes put in a pan with a bit of olive oil or whatever, and maybe some garlic. I literally love garlic. You can throw in there like sesame seeds and flax seeds and chia seeds. They really add a really nice sort of bulk to the salad as well. They're lovely,
just fried like
and I
that?
say, yeah, you can literally just put them in a pan with some garlic and maybe some rock salt and black pepper and garlic in a pan, and you can just throw all those different, like I slice up. I mean, I think blanched almonds, I don't know all the nutritional values of everything, but I think blanched almonds are maybe better for you than just normal raw almonds. But you can slice those up and just throw those all in a pan and throw them onto the top of your salad, right? So you get that there's a kind of warm taste and a crunchy taste of the salad that goes along with, the leaves, the beets. I mean, I break up tiny little bits of raw cauliflower, broccoli, peas are really nice, edamame beans. I mean, yeah, I need to write a book about all the
Yeah,
salads I could
definitely. Oh,
make,
yeah, you're
'cause,
making me hungry. And would you fry the
endless.
cauliflower and broccoli and peas in?
You can.
Oh, I like that
I
idea.
like. I mean, obviously, yeah. I like that. I love raw. I mean, I
Right.
love raw broccoli. I love raw cauliflower, and I think the smaller you make it, the more refined and delicate it feels. I love grated carrot in things rather than chunks of carrot. I love grated carrot. So I think it's some of the ways, the preparation, and then definitely 100%. There are hundreds of different dressings you can do, from obviously very simple with olive oil and balsamic through, like you said, to tahini. And I mean, sesame leaves a lovely taste in salads. Some of the good quality soy sauces are delicious as salad dressings. They just give that slightly more oriental flavor and taste to it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just think, people need to just get a bit creative. I love using sweet potato. I absolutely love using sweet potato. Sweet jacket potatoes are delicious, chopped up really fine and fried in a pan, roasted in the oven. You can throw those in with loads of things, and they're really, really, fabulous nutrition content as well. So
Yeah, I love sweet potato and butternut squash as
yeah,
well. I do a really nice
yeah,
butternut squash risotto, which is lovely.
lovely.
So yeah, something that came to mind as you were speaking there about the salad dressings and the seeds and everything is, the advice of having 30 plants a week. And I remember when I first heard about the 30 target, thinking, oh God, they tell you to have 5 a day, but now they're saying 30 a week. That's huge. So at the start of the year, because I have the Delicious Yella app, which, by the way, is amazing for anyone listening. It's got all of the recipes, and you can do full weekly food plans, but also you get lots of exercise and meditation and mindfulness tools. So it's brilliant. But I started tracking on her app, And by the second day, I think I'd had like 23 plans. And I don't use the app now, but I'd done it for a few weeks just to see, out of interest, how close I was to 30.
Mm.
And sometimes on a Monday alone, if I start counting from the Monday morning, by that Monday evening, I can have had 17 or 18 different plans. And that's because as you say in a salad, if you then add things like nuts or seeds and you make a dressing and you use herbs, herbs are classed as a plant.
Yep.
So all of those different things quickly add up. You know, if you have two or three different varieties of lettuce leaves, some tomato, I know you said the typical tomato cucumber, but if you have like radishes and spring onions and some
Mm.
beetroot, and then you make a dressing with, you know, tahini and olive oil, and you put lemon juice in, and then you sprinkle some nuts on top or seeds. And I like to have Greek yogurt sometimes after lunch with berries, and I put, you know, some flaked almonds, some hemp seeds, maybe some sunflower or pumpkin seeds as well. So, you know, just then in that bowl, I might have had strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, the different nuts or seeds, and I could have had 6 or 7 plants just there in that kind of dessert, if you like, you know, and then everything else. So it's surprising how easy it can all add up, isn't it, to get that variety in, which I think a lot of people have that fear about, well, what's the point if I'm not going to be fully plant-based, or I'm not going to be, you know, fully able to cook every single meal from scratch. They stay where they are. And as we said, it's about just the small steps and maybe doing a little bit of something different to be healthier, to bring a little bit of change, rather than thinking, well, because I can't do it all, I won't do any of it. Is that something you hear from people?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But I think it's to do with change in anything, Nicola. You know, we become quite robotic in our habits, don't we? And you know, and good habits can take 30 to 90 days because our brain has been programmed for years and years and years and years and years to do this, and this, right? Good or bad for us. So, you know, I love the fact, you know, like you. I take people on a 30 to 90-day program just about changing their food and eating habits if they want to, and making sure their gut's clean, and, you know, and helping supplement that with you know, high powered plant nutrition as well. But it's so true what you've just said, and I love that. I hadn't actually, because I haven't obviously got the Ella app, but that's interesting. You know, when you think about, my cupboard is full of dried herbs as well. You know, if you add parsley, sage, dill, thyme, mixed herbs, oregano, turmeric, cayenne pepper, paprika, I am adding all of those into my cooking on a daily basis. So like you said, it wouldn't take long to get to 30, would it?
It's, I think, much easier to get those 30 in, and it's about feeding your gut and knowing how much your gut is responsible for your brain health, your immune system, you know, just, I mean, they are pretty much coming out now and saying that your gut is as an important organ as your brain is. It weighs more
Mm,
than your brain, it's bigger,
mm.
and so on. So the more variety you can get in, the better. So even if it's just that when you go shopping next, you think, what fruit have I not had for a long time? I bought passion fruit for the very first time last week, and just have been scraped. I had to Google what I could do with it, because I thought, yeah, I've seen them added into smoothies, but what do you actually do with a passion fruit? You know, so just scraping it out and putting it on top of the yogurt with the fruit
Yeah.
and nuts. You know, so think, what could I buy different? The same with the veg, or maybe when you look at the tin of beans, what could I buy that I've never bought before? You know, black beans are amazing. The black I want, the cannellini beans. You know, there's just so many varieties there. I'd like to put them all in. I just use whatever I've got in the cupboard. Put them all into a pan with chopped onions and peppers, and then just whack in some tinned tomatoes and lots of different herbs and chili, you know, and just have, as you mentioned earlier, a really big mixed bean chili, which lasts me. Last week I did it. It was 5 lunches that I got from, you know, that
Oh,
big pan and batch cooking. So yeah, just thinking of the simple steps you could take to bring more plant-based food into your diet, and try something that you and your family wouldn't usually pick up when you go shopping.
yeah, I think so. And I think, you know what holds it all together for me, because it is, potentially for me so much more than just the food I'm putting in my mouth. I think it's about just having a reason why. Ask yourself, why do you want to do this? What is your reason for wanting to do it? And when you kind of think, oh, well, I've heard it might be healthier, or, I've heard it might be better for, the future of the planet, or actually, I don't want to eat factory farmed animals anymore because it's abhorrently cruel. You have to find the why. I think everything starts with why. It's the same with, why do people want to get healthy and go to the gym? What's the outcome that you want? And if it's like, okay, I want to feel healthier in myself, like you've said, for you, I want to feel healthier in myself, right? Well, then that's a great place to start. And if it's because, do you know what, I'm reading a lot now, like that person might be thinking, I'm reading a lot now about, the impact of, I think 80% of all agricultural land in the world is for livestock reproduction, and the food provided for those animals. 80%. And I think if we were growing those crops for just human consumption without it having to go through the animal's body first, think how much more land we'd have. So, and also it's very high intensity. I mean, I don't know the actual facts, but one steak is gallons and gallons and gallons of water, right? Compared to something similar. So, I think it's I'd say to anybody listening to this, think of your reason first, right? Because if you don't have a reason to want to do it, I tell you what, you might try it once, not like it, and go, oh, well, we'll just go back to the old ways, right? It's the same with everything we do in life. So if you have a reason, why do you want to ask yourself, why would you like to try plant-based? Is it because you want to feel more healthy, because you've heard it's better for the climate, and you've heard that actually maybe it's a bit cruel to, kill billions of animals every year just for the sake of what you're going to put in your mouth? So I would just say that to people, ask yourself why, and then you can come up with, that's why I'm going to do it, and that's why I'm going to delve into it and educate myself on it.
Yeah, and I talk about why being the biggest little question you can ask yourself, and it's part of my framework that I use well in coaching, which starts with the why, because you're absolutely right. You hear people say, oh, I want to get fit, I'm going to go to the gym, but they don't know why they want to get fit. And, likewise, a lot of people who focus just on wanting to lose weight, they don't really know why they want to lose weight. They know they don't feel good and they don't necessarily feel happy or like themselves, but they're not really clear on why losing weight would make them feel the way they want. And that's why, as you say, many people stay where they are and stay stuck, because they aren't clear about what that change would actually mean to them. So yeah, that's really good advice. I think that's a great tip to give as we wrap up, is about the small steps, know why you want to change, and then just see how it feels to maybe give something a go that you perhaps haven't eaten before, and swap out, some of the meat, fish, or other animal products you might use to something plant-based, and just start from there.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah, if
Whatever
people
you
would
can
like
do
to,
is a good step.
yeah, exactly. So do you want to just let people know where they can connect with you, Sarah, if they want to find out more about what you do, and how to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. If I can remember it all off by the top of my head. You can connect with me on Instagram at @SarahMills_UK. You can connect with me on LinkedIn as Sarah Mills Has Got It. You can find me as Sarah Mills The Art of Winning on Facebook. And I have a link tree, but I don't know how you find that if somebody's
I'll
looking,
pop it
called
in.
The Art of Winning. But you'll
I'll
pop the
pop it
links
all in
in,
the
yeah.
notes.
You can
Yeah.
you can find me somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, and Sarah's a real advocate for collaborating and networking, which is how we met here in Newcastle.
Yes.
So yeah, you really support empowering women to run their own businesses and to connect with each other, which I absolutely love. So yeah, I look forward to being part of that going forward as well. So thanks so much for your time, Sarah. Loved chatting, and hopefully we've given people some great, really like tangible, actionable tips there to get going with, to try and get more plants into their diet.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Nicola. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the great work that you're doing as well. Absolutely amazing. And go plants. Let's make them
Yeah,
sexy, not boring.
definitely. Love that. Thanks, Sarah.